Paris, 1789. The streets are restless. Starving peasants, frustrated workers, and furious revolutionaries flood the city. The old order, the monarchy, trembles. The king watches from his palace, but the people no longer bow. This is the beginning of one of the most dramatic revolutions in history, a story of bloodshed, betrayal, and the birth of modern democracy. But how did France go from an absolute monarchy to the chaos of the guillotine, and finally to the iron rule of Napoleon? Let's dive into the entire history of the French Revolution. To understand why the revolution happened, we need to look at the world before it began. In the late 18th century, France was ruled by King Louis XVI. His ancestors had built France into a global powerhouse, but by now, the country was drowning in debt. The rich, nobles, and clergy lived in unimaginable luxury, while the poor couldn't afford bread. Meanwhile, Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and Rousseau were spreading radical ideas: freedom, democracy, and the notion that kings weren't chosen by God, but by the people. The king, out of touch. The queen, Marie Antoinette, infamous for the phrase she likely never said: "Let them eat cake." The people, furious. Something had to give. For the first time in over 170 years, King Louis called a meeting of the Estates General, a political assembly of the three social classes: the clergy, the nobles, and the commoners. But there was a problem. The commoners, known as the Third Estate, made up 98% of the population, yet had little to no power. They demanded change. The king ignored them, so they did something unthinkable. They broke away and formed their own government. Days later, they swore the famous tennis court oath, vowing never to disband until France had a constitution. Then, the people of Paris had enough. On July 14th, 1789, a mob stormed the Bastille prison, a symbol of royal tyranny. Heads were paraded on spikes. The French Revolution had begun. At first, the revolution seemed hopeful. A new constitution was drafted, limiting the king's power, but Louis XVI was plotting a way out. In June 1791, Louis and Marie Antoinette tried to escape France. Disguised as servants, they made it to the border, but were caught and dragged back to Paris in disgrace. This was the final straw. By 1793, France was a full-fledged republic, and that meant no more king. Louis XVI was put on trial and sentenced to death. Soon after, Marie Antoinette followed. The monarchy was dead, but the revolution didn't stop there. A radical leader named Maximilien Robespierre took control and launched the Reign of Terror. Thousands were executed. Nobles, revolutionaries, even common citizens suspected of being enemies of the revolution. The guillotine worked overtime. But in 1794, Robespierre himself was executed. The Reign of Terror was over, but France was still in chaos. Out of the ashes of the revolution, a new leader emerged: Napoleon Bonaparte. A brilliant military general, he quickly rose through the ranks, winning battle after battle. In 1799, Napoleon staged a coup and took control of France. Within a few years, he crowned himself emperor, ending the revolution, but stabilizing the country. France had gone from monarchy to republic to empire. The French Revolution changed the world forever, ending absolute monarchy, spreading democratic ideals, and inspiring revolutions across the globe. And Napoleon, he would go on to reshape Europe, but that's a story for another time. The French Revolution was one of the most defining events in human history. It wasn't just about overthrowing a king, it was about reshaping the very idea of power, freedom, and rights. So next time you hear words like liberty and democracy, remember, they were paid for in blood on the streets of 18th century France. Thanks for watching. If you found this fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe for more epic history videos. Until next time, vive la révolution!